have been on the bench long enough to know the difference between bad manners, arrogance, and something far uglier. Bad manners are sloppy, arrogance is loud. But what walked into my courtroom that Thursday morning was polished cruelty. Her name was Isabella Vance, and if you lived anywhere near this city, you knew the family. They owned towers, shipping interests, half the skyline, and enough political influence to make weak people forget the meaning of the word no. The charge on my docket was battery and disorderly conduct involving a service member. Even before the hearing began, I knew this was not going to be some ordinary restaurant dispute dressed up for court. The police report was too specific and too ugly. According to 15 witnesses, Isabella Vance had publicly insulted Sergeant Marcus Hayes, a 24-year-old soldier who had just returned from a 12-month deployment, and then spat directly in his face inside one of the city's most exclusive restaurants. Marcus had not gone there to make a statement. He was not there for attention. He had come straight from the airport, still wearing dusty fatigues, carrying a cheap bouquet of carnations, because his mother worked in the kitchen as a dishwasher, and he wanted to surprise her by showing up alive. He did not come in like a hero expecting applause. He came in like a son. Then in glided Isabella Vance, white cashmere coat, designer sunglasses indoors, 3 lawyers behind her. She did not look at the flag. She did not look at Sergeant Hayes. She looked bored. I told her to remove the sunglasses. She looked at me over the rims and asked whether that was really necessary because the courtroom lighting was unflattering and she had a photo shoot in an hour. Fine. That told me all I needed to know about her priorities. I had the security footage played. On the screen, the restaurant was elegant. Then Marcus walked in, tired, dusty, carrying flowers, trying to make himself small. He brushed the back of Isabella's chair, stopped immediately, and apologized. He even stepped back. A decent person would have accepted it and gone back to lunch. Isabella stood up and demanded to know whether he understood how much her coat cost. Marcus explained he had just come from the airport and was looking for his mother in the kitchen. That should have been the end of it. Instead, Isabella laughed and called his mother the help. Then she told Marcus he was contaminating the air and should leave before security threw him out. Marcus stayed calm. He said he had fought for this country and had every right to bring his mother flowers. That was when Isabella stepped closer, looked him in the face, and said he had fought for nothing. Then she spat on him. Now, let me tell you why that moment mattered. It was not only battery. It was contempt. Contempt for service. Contempt for working people. Contempt for his mother. And when the lights came back up in my courtroom, Isabella was checking her manicure like she had just finished watching a dull commercial. I asked if she understood the gravity of what we had seen. She said she did him a favor because he needed a shower. That was her defense. She told me he was dirty, that he had invaded her space, that he was just a soldier and soldiers were government property. She said people like Marcus existed to do ugly work, so people like her could maintain standards. Then she mocked his mother's job, said the restaurant was for contributors to the economy, and treated a man in uniform like a nuisance she was entitled to humiliate. I have no patience for that, so I said what needed to be said. I told her that while she was worrying about her coat, Marcus Hayes had spent a year in a place where people were trying to kill him. I told her that the dirt on his uniform meant more than every luxury item she was wearing. I told her that his mother, with her dishwater hands and long shifts, had done more for the dignity of this city than she ever had. Then I laid out what her lawyers hoped I would never examine too closely, because this was not a first offense in spirit. There were prior settlements, valets, staff, service workers, a pattern of humiliating people and then letting family money clean it up. Isabella was not having one bad day. She was living one bad character. Then I found the final lever. She had an active deferred agreement from Colorado after shoving a ski instructor 6 months earlier. No further violent conduct for 12 months or the original charge came roaring back. By spitting on Sergeant Hayes, she had violated that agreement. That changed everything. I sentenced her to 6 months in county custody, the maximum fine, and 500 hours of community service at a veterans hospital. Not office filing, janitorial work, floors, bedpans, vomit, blood, and the daily realities of bodies broken in service. Wealth had taught her that all problems end in checks. I needed her to learn that lessons must be lived. Months later, she came back to court a different woman. No sunglasses, no lawyers, no performance. She had spent her hours cleaning, listening, reading to blind veterans, and helping men she once would have looked through. She apologized to Marcus Hayes directly. Not because I ordered poetry from her, but because life had finally introduced her to humility. Marcus looked at her and said the woman who spat on him had been lost, but the woman standing there looked like she had found her way back. That is the whole point. Justice is not only punishment. Sometimes, if handled properly, it is transformation. Isabella Vance walked into my courtroom believing money could keep her above human decency. She left learning the only thing wealth cannot buy: character.